Diablo 4 is coming out in 2 days. It's gonna be completely amazing. I feel that everybody is thrilled for this. Today's video, we're gonna go and take a look at how damage works in Diablo 4. If you want to dish out lots and lots of damage, you need to understand how the calculation is made and the concept of buckets. We're gonna go through this a little bit later in the video, and stay until the end to know how to win a copy of Diablo 4 when it comes out on June 1st. It's gonna be super easy, everything at the end. My name is Ghost of Seas. Let's go and take a look at it. So for Diablo 4, like for Diablo 3 and other games in the past, damage is calculated in two different ways. It can be either additive or it can be multiplicative. Easy to understand because it's like basically elementary math. Some damage they add together, so it's a plus, and other damage they multiply together, so it's an X. Basically, if you want to maximize your damage, you need to understand the bucket system, how many multipliers you can get from which kind of sources, and this video is going to give you all the information for it. So let's go and take a look at how it actually works. So how it works, there is 8 different multiplier buckets. So you have main stat, critical damage, vulnerability, damage versus, damage while, damage with, damage from, and all damage. If you go in the stat section of the Diablo 4 planner, you can see them all here on the offensive table. So you have your weapon damage, your weapon speed, your attack speed, critical strike chance, strike damage, overpower chance, vulnerable damage, your overall damage, and then damage versus elite, versus stunned, versus burning, versus chilled. These are all of the same bucket. You have one multiplier, but they can be multiplied by damage with. So you have damage with, cold, fire, fire over time. They can stack. And then you have the damage while. If you have damage while something is happening, then you get another multiplicator. As a quick example, let's go and take a look at this footage right here. We're gonna have all damage, which is one bucket. We're gonna have our main stat. Then we're gonna have damage to certain elites or enemies, damage while we are healthy, damage with fire. So as you can see, we have different buckets here that we're gonna multiply together and get exponential more damage. A quick note here is that every damage over time, everything it's poison, fire over time, things like that, cannot critically strike. So we cannot use the critical damage bucket in this instance. Everything you see about buckets here in this video is also a product of Goblin Inc.'s video that I've seen a couple of days ago, and then some research on Reddit and on the Diablo 4 planners. I just want to give a quick shout out. Really good job on that video. Diablo Inc., if you see this video, I'm going to tag you and give you a big shout out for that. Now, let me show you a concrete example of how the buckets were used with the Necromancer in this clip. So normally we would hit all the skills and items that we have to get a percentage amount of time. But as you can see here, we're gonna hit around 6,000 to 7,000 up to even 8,000 damage with Bone Spear. Let me show you why and how it worked with the bucket specific to this one. So in the beta, we were able to get to level 25, plus we had 2 skills from the Renowned system. We were about level 27. And let me show you what was stacking over there. So as you can see here, we have the Necromancer, which will dictate its damage from the total percent of the damage, its intelligence from its stat, the attack speed bonus that you're going to get for every time you use a Bone Spear, and then the critical strike chance with the critical strike damage. And on the critical strike damage, you get the critical strike damage versus the vulnerable enemies and with the bone one. So even in the yellow part, as you can see here, everything that was critical strike damage with bone versus vulnerable and critical strike damage versus CC'd enemies, they were added together and then they were multiplied by all the non-colored ones. So that was its own bucket that was said. So if in the same bucket you have different affinities, so if you have width versus or damage in its own, they are going to be added together first and then they're going to be multiplied on another bucket, basically. So as you can see here, we had the Bone Splinter with the Initiate here to be able to get a critical strike chance for 4 seconds. But the most important things were always the passives. Right here, we had Imperfectly Balanced, where your core skills cost 9% more essence, but dealt 15% more damage. As you can see here, there was an X, so that was multiplicative for the total damage that we had. And then we used, in conjunction with Corpse Explosion, with this one here, 1 point in Grim Harvest, and then 3 points in Fueled by Death, where we dealt 9%, again, multiplicative damage, increased after we explode a corpse for 6 seconds, which also was really good. And then we added it with another bucket, which was distant enemies, another 12%. As you can see here, I think it's versus, yes. So we have damage versus distant enemies, and then we had damage with bone skills, and then we had damage from. We didn't really use the from. I used the golem, but that was another bucket, but it wasn't really used for anything else. But at the same time, we had the vulnerable damage that was also taken from the actual bone spear skill, which every time we were hit an enemy, the vulnerable state would apply automatically. So if you think about it, we had the damage, we had the stat, and then we had the critical strike chance and the critical strike damage from the vulnerable, from the bone, and from the damage itself. And then we had the overall damage right here. After that, we had the damage versus distant. Then we had the damage while we were healthy, the damage with the bone spear, and the vulnerable damage itself. So as you can see, we multiplied all these percentages together to be able to get exponential damage. This is how it works. All right, so there it is. In summary, what you really want to do is to stack these buckets, different multiplicators, to be able to get the most amount of damage you want. As we saw earlier, some buckets have way different stats in there. What's gonna happen is before it's multiplied to other buckets, it's gonna be added together. So if you have, like we saw earlier, the critical strike chances with bones, with bone spear, with vulnerable attacks, things like that, they're all gonna be added together under the critical damage bucket, and then they're gonna be multiplied with other damages, like the damage with fire and the damage while healthy. I hope this makes a lot of sense. On top of that, don't forget that you can get an overpower also on some skills. So if it is a skill that can crit, so it's not a DOT, a damage over time, and on top of that, you have one of your skills that guarantees an overpower attack after a certain amount, like the Druid's Pulverize attack. After 10 attacks, the 10th one is automatically overpowering damage. So you can use that in your advantage. I hope you love this video. If you like this kind of content, please leave a like, a comment, and a subscription. It is a free and fantastic way to help this channel. And on top of that, you get a chance to win a copy of a game I am covering. For this time, June 1st, the giveaway ends. It's for Diablo 4. You just got to be subscribed and stay tuned for after that, because I have an amazing giveaway for the rest of the year. My name is Ghost of It Sees. Peace.